there are rivers that carry water. And then there are rivers that carry something far older. Something whispered about in the darkness, long before modern stories of ghosts, spirits, and haunted places ever existed. Imagine standing beside a river beneath a darkened sky. The water is perfectly turning. No insects sing. No wind moves through the trees. And somewhere across the black water, you hear the slow creak of an ancient wooden boat. One oar dips into the darkness, then another. And through the mist comes a figure who has been waiting for thousands of years. Charon, the ferryman of the dead. But tonight, we aren't simply following Charon. We are going deeper. Because beneath his boat lies a river that the ancient Greeks believed was far more than water. They called her Styx, a goddess, a boundary, a witness, and a power so sacred that even the gods themselves feared breaking an oath upon her name. So what exactly was the River Styx? Why did the Greeks personify her as a divine being? Why were the gods bound by her waters? And what might the Styx represent if we look beyond the mythology and into the mystery of consciousness itself? Tonight, we cross the river. But be warned, some rivers do not lead you home. Welcome to Enlightenment in the darkness. I am Four Winds. Welcome to my channel. When most people hear the words River Styx, they imagine a dark river flowing through the underworld. But ancient Greek mythology gives us something much more interesting. Styx was not simply a river. She was a goddess. The traditional mythology describes Styx as one of the oceanids associated with the great primordial waters. And this changes the story completely. The river becomes a person, a consciousness, a divine presence. The Greeks frequently personified forces of nature. The sea could have divine personalities. The winds could have personalities. Night itself could become a goddess. And Styx represented something extraordinarily powerful. The boundary between worlds. She became associated with death, separation, transition, and most importantly, the sacred oath. Here's where the story becomes truly fascinating. The gods of Olympus were not above the power of Styx. They could swear an oath upon her waters. And once that oath was sworn, it was sacred. A god who deliberately broke such an oath could suffer terrible consequences. For a period of time, the offending deity could be separated from the company of the other gods and deprived of divine privileges. The message was clear. Even immortality did not place someone above the laws represented by Styx. Think about that. Zeus could rule Olympus. The gods could command storms, seas, war, love, and fate. But when an oath was sworn upon Styx, even the gods had to answer. So perhaps Styx was never truly something the gods possessed. Perhaps they merely recognized her authority. Her children included powerful personifications such as Nike, Victory, along with Zelos, Kratos, and Bia. Zeus rewarded Styx and her children for their loyalty, and according to mythology, Zeus declared that the gods would swear their most solemn oaths by Styx. This created a strange relationship between the goddess and Olympus. Styx was honored by Zeus, but she was never simply another servant of Olympus. Her waters represented something deeper, a cosmic boundary, a sacred promise, a law that even immortals could not casually violate. This brings us to an intriguing question. Was Styx claimed by Zeus? Was her power taken into the order of Olympus? Or did the gods simply recognize a force that was already ancient? The mythology doesn't really describe Zeus conquering or possessing Styx. Instead, something subtler happens. Her power becomes woven into the divine structure. The gods use her waters. They swear upon her. They depend upon her. But they also fear the consequences of violating what she represents. And perhaps that is more powerful than ownership. Because sometimes, the greatest power isn't the power that rules. It is the power that cannot be ignored. The 5 rivers of the Underworld. And Styx was not alone. Greek mythology described several rivers associated with the Underworld. There was Acheron, associated with sorrow and woe. Cocytus, the river of lamentation. Phlegethon, the river of fire. Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. And the River Styx. Each river carried its own symbolism. But Lethe is particularly fascinating when viewed through the lens of consciousness. Lethe was associated with forgetting. To drink from her waters was to lose memory, and suddenly the underworld becomes more than a place of the dead. It becomes a landscape of consciousness, memory, forgetfulness, separation, transformation, and crossing. Now we step beyond historical mythology and into interpretation. There is no ancient Greek text that tells us Styx was literally a consciousness in the modern spiritual sense. But the mythology gives us an extraordinary symbol. If we imagine Styx as a conscious divine presence, what might she represent? Perhaps she is the consciousness of transition itself. She stands between what was and what comes next, between life and death, between the known and the unknown, between the person we have been and the person we are becoming. She doesn't necessarily create the transformation. She witnesses the crossing. And that may be why the image of the river is so powerful. A river is always moving. You can step into the same water twice, but it will never be the same water. And neither will you. Imagine the soul arriving at the river. Behind it lies everything it once knew. Its body, its possessions, its identity, its memories, its fears, its victories, its regrets, and ahead, the dark water. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't what waits on the other side. Perhaps it is what we must surrender before we can cross. The Greeks understood something profound through the image of the underworld. Death was not simply an ending, it was a threshold. And Styx became the embodiment of that threshold. And then comes Charon, the ferryman. He waits at the edge of the underworld to transport souls across the waters. Tradition later associated the dead with a coin placed with the body as payment for the journey. The image has survived for thousands of years. A silent boat, a silent passenger, a black river. And one ferryman who never asks where you came from, because he already knows where you are going. But perhaps the most haunting part is this. Charon does not cross the river for you. You must enter the boat. You must leave the shore. You must cross. When midnight falls upon the shore and mortal footsteps walk no more, a river black beneath the sky reflects no moon as souls pass by. The waters whisper, cold and deep, of promises the gods must keep. No crown can rule, no sword can sever the oath once sworn beside the river. Charon's oar begins to glide through shadows gathered on either side. The living call, the dead are still. The river flows beyond our will. 5 dark waters wind below, where ancient spirits come and go. One brings sorrow, one brings flame, one makes forgotten every name. But Styx herself stands watching there, with ancient eyes beyond despair. She knows the souls who cross her tide and keeps the secrets of the other side. So if you hear the water call, when midnight shadows start to fall, do not step closer to the shore. For some who cross the Styx are heard no more. Perhaps this is why the River Styx continues to haunt our imagination. Because every human being eventually encounters a river of some kind. A moment when the old life ends, a relationship disappears, a belief collapses, an identity changes, a spiritual awakening begins. And suddenly, we are standing on the shore. Behind us is the person we once were. Ahead is something we cannot yet see. The Styx can therefore become a symbol of transformation, not necessarily literal death, but the death of an old consciousness. And on the opposite shore, something new may be waiting. So perhaps the ancient Greeks were telling us something when they imagined the river Styx. Perhaps the underworld was never meant to be understood only as a place beneath the earth. Perhaps it was also a mirror, a place where humanity confronted its oldest questions. What happens when we die? What do we remember? What do we forget? What must we leave behind? And what waits beyond the crossing? Styx remains there in the darkness, ancient silent, watching. How many times do we cross our own Styx while we are still alive? If, through the darkness, you hear a voice whisper your name, perhaps it isn't calling you to die. Perhaps Styx is simply asking whether you are ready to cross. How many times do we cross our own Styx while we are still alive? Every ending creates a shore. Every transformation creates a crossing. And every crossing leaves something behind. Until we meet again, keep searching beyond the darkness. Good night.